Two 8-year-old twin girls, abandoned by their mother, are shining shoes under the scorching sun to earn money for food. But when a young billionaire notices the necklace one of them is wearing, he is shocked and begins to cry desperately. The late afternoon sun painted the buildings gold as Ethan adjusted his navy blue tie. He was running late for a meeting with investors, but not so late that he needed a taxi. Walking through the bustling downtown streets always gave him time to organize his thoughts. The city buzzed with the typical Wednesday movement. Street vendors, hurried executives, and tourists filled the urban scene that Ethan barely noticed as he checked numbers on his phone. His tech company was about to close a deal that would change everything. "Just 5 more minutes and I'll be there," he muttered to himself, slipping the phone into his jacket pocket. That was when his gaze caught something unusual. On the next corner, where hot dog vendors usually set up, 2 young girls sat on wooden crates offering to shine shoes. It wasn't the activity itself that grabbed his attention, but rather how young they were. Unfortunately, it wasn't rare to see children working in the streets, but there was something different about these 2. Ethan slowed his pace, observing them more closely. The taller one wore a simple but clean dress, her light brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The smaller one, likely a few minutes younger than her sister, had freckles scattered across her face and a lively look in her eyes, watching every passerby. "Need a shine, sir? We'll make your shoes sparkle," the freckled girl shouted at a man who rushed by, ignoring her completely. Something about the dignity with which they worked made Ethan slow down even more. That's when he noticed the necklace. Hanging around the ponytailed girl's neck was a small pendant, swinging back and forth as she organized her brushes. It was a silver crescent moon with tiny blue stones set into it. Instantly, Ethan's heart sped up, as if he'd been struck by lightning. His hands went cold, and the world around him seemed to go silent for a moment. That necklace. He knew that necklace. He hadn't seen it in 9 years, but he would recognize it anywhere. It was identical to the one he'd given Olivia on their first anniversary. Ethan stopped, stunned. It was impossible. It had to be a coincidence. Instinctively, he touched the watch on his wrist, another gift from that time, the only object he kept as a reminder of a story he'd tried to bury. The meeting, the investors, the contract, all of it vanished from his mind. He straightened his jacket and walked toward the girls, who were now arguing about who would use the new brush. "Excuse me, do you do a good job here?" he asked, staying far enough away not to startle them. Both girls looked at him with immediate suspicion. The freckled one was the first to speak. "Best shine around, mister. $5 for the basic, 10 for the special wax job." Ethan glanced at his shoes, which were already shining. He'd had them polished that morning. "I think I need the special today," he said, taking a seat on the makeshift chair made from an overturned box. The girl with the necklace, who had kept her distance until then, approached with a brush in hand. Ethan tried not to stare at the pendant, but his eyes kept drifting back to it. "My sister will apply the first coat, then I'll do the finishing touch," explained the ponytailed girl. Her voice was calm, almost adult-like for someone so young. "You two are very organized," Ethan remarked, trying to start a conversation. "Have you been doing this for a long time?" "Ever since our mum disappeared," answered the shorter one, without lifting her eyes from Ethan's shoes. A tightness grew in Ethan's chest. "I'm sorry to hear that. Do you live around here?" The girls exchanged glances, that silent sibling communication they seemed to have perfected. "We don't talk about that with strangers," replied the one with the necklace, and firm but not rude. Ethan nodded. It was a sensible attitude. "Of course, I'm sorry, I just—" He pointed to the necklace. "That necklace you're wearing is very pretty." The girl automatically raised her hand to the pendant as though to protect it. "It used to belong to our mom. It's the only thing we have of hers." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. "Can I ask your names? My name is Ethan." Again, the sisters exchanged looks before answering. "I'm Emma," said the necklace wearer. "And this is my sister Lily." "Emma and Lily. Those are lovely names," Ethan said, trying to hide the tremor in his hands. "How old are you?" "8, they answered almost in unison. 8 years old. Ethan did some quick math. If Olivia disappeared 6 years ago, the girls would have been 2 at the time they were left alone. And 8 years ago, that was right after Olivia vanished from his life. So you've been on your own since your mom. Since she left. Emma applied the black polish to his shoes with precise movements. Our neighbor checks in on us sometimes, lets us sleep at her place when it rains really hard. But there's no room for the 2 of us to live there. She's got her own grandkids, Lily continued. We've always managed. Emma knows how to cook rice and beans, and I wash the clothes. Ethan watched them, impressed by their maturity and devastated by their situation. No one should have to grow up so fast. And your dad? Is he... We don't have a dad, Emma cut in firmly. Mom said he left before we were born. Another blow to Ethan's chest. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but knew he had to tread carefully. Do you know why your mom left? Did she leave a note or anything? Lily, now polishing the other shoe, shook her head. We woke up one day and she was gone. She just left a note saying we should be strong and that she'd come back one day. And that necklace. Ethan pointed to the pendant again. Did she leave it with you? It was on the table with the note, Emma replied, instinctively clutching the necklace again. It's my greatest treasure. Ethan vividly remembered the day he had bought that necklace. He'd saved for months to purchase the crescent moon with small blue stones. Sapphires, according to the jeweler. The seller mentioned some legend about protection over life's waters. Olivia loved it and swore she'd never take it off. A week later, she disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye. Just a phone call saying, we need some time apart, and then silence. Ethan had never fully gotten over being abandoned. And now, 9 years later, the necklace showed up on the neck of an 8-year-old girl. All done, mister, announced Lily, snapping him out of his thoughts. They're nice and shiny, aren't they? Ethan looked at his shoes, perfectly polished. You two did an excellent job. He took out his wallet and pulled out a $50 bill. Keep the change. The girl's eyes went wide. We don't have change for that, Emma said. You don't need to give me any. You earned it. The 2 of them exchanged looks, suspicious. Do you want something in return? Emma asked suddenly, defensive. Because we only shine shoes, nothing else. Ethan's heart clenched even more, realizing the implication behind her words. The world had taught them far too early that no one gives anything without wanting something back. I don't want anything except my shoes polished, which you've already done really well. He smiled, trying to appear as harmless as possible. I just think you deserve fair pay for good work. Lily, less wary than her sister, hesitantly took the bill. Thank you, mister. Ethan stood up, glancing around. The sun was beginning to set. It's getting late. Do you two have a safe place to stay tonight? We always do, Emma answered quickly, already packing up the brushes. Something told Ethan he shouldn't press them any further. Any sudden move and they might disappear, taking with them the only clue he'd found in years regarding Olivia. May I come by tomorrow to see you? I always pass by here in the late afternoon. The girls exchanged glances again. Why? Emma asked. Ethan thought quickly. Well, I have other shoes that need shining. Lily smiled. Okay then. We're here every day unless it rains. Perfect, Ethan said with a grin. See you tomorrow. He walked a few steps, then stopped and turned back toward the girls. One last question. What's your mom's name? The 2 exchanged yet another glance before Emma replied, Olivia Martins. Ethan felt his legs go weak. It was her, his Olivia. Somehow at the same time she vanished from his life, she had also left behind 2 daughters who were now 8 years old. Thank you, he managed, before turning and heading on his way, the investor meeting completely forgotten. As he walked, Ethan's mind raced. Olivia had daughters, twins apparently, daughters who now practically lived on the streets. What had happened to her? Why would she abandon her own children? And more importantly, where was she now? He pulled out his phone and cancelled all his appointments for the next day. Those girls needed help, and something inside him, maybe the love he never truly forgot for Olivia, or maybe just basic human decency, told him he had to do something. The crescent moon necklace sparkling on Emma's neck was more than a coincidence. It was a sign, a clue fate had placed in his path. Getting into a taxi to go home, Ethan was already making a decision. He would find out what happened to Olivia, and in the meantime find a way to help Emma and Lily. He didn't know how yet, but he couldn't just go on with his life knowing Olivia's daughters were alone in the world. For the first time in 9 years, the emptiness he'd felt since Olivia's disappearance seemed to have a purpose. And amid the whirlwind of emotions, one certainty grew. That encounter was no accident. Ethan entered his apartment and loosened his tie. The meeting with the investors had been a disaster. He hadn't been able to focus after meeting the girls. The image of the necklace on Emma's neck was all he could think about. He poured himself a whiskey and walked to the window. Outside, city lights sparkled against the dark sky. 9 years had passed since Olivia disappeared from his life, but the wound had never fully healed. Olivia Martins. The name still made his chest tighten. They met in college. She was studying marketing, he was in finance. It was one of those instant connections that seemed written in the stars. For 2 years, they built what Ethan believed was the love of his life. He took a sip of his drink and closed his eyes, letting himself remember. Olivia had a smile that lit up any room, black hair she loved to wear in a messy bun, and a laugh Ethan swore he could pick out of a crowd. She was obsessed with old movies, hated getting up early, and dreamed of starting her own ad agency. "Where did you go, Liv?" he murmured to himself. He walked to the office and opened the bottom drawer of the desk, the one he rarely touched. Inside was a small wooden box containing the few mementos he'd kept, a few photos, movie ticket stubs, and the only letter Olivia had ever written him when she visited her parents out of town. Back then, he'd been working as a financial analyst at a bank, saving every penny to start his own business. That was when he saw the necklace in a jewelry store window, a silver crescent moon with tiny sapphires. The seller told him it represented protection in life's waters. Olivia loved that kind of symbolism. He gave it to her on their first anniversary. She cried upon opening the box and promised never to take it off. A week later, he got the phone call. "We need some time apart, Ethan. I can't explain right now, but I need some space." He tried to argue, pleaded for an explanation, but Olivia hung up. She never answered his calls again. He went to her apartment the next day, only to find she had moved out. No one knew where she went. It was as though she'd vanished into thin air. The following months were a blur. He threw himself into his work, founded his tech company, and used the pain as fuel for success. On paper, he was a wealthy businessman at just 32 years old. In reality, he was a man who had never gotten over his greatest failure, losing the woman he loved without understanding why. And now, 9 years later, the necklace was back, around the neck of an 8-year-old girl who, together with her sister, had been living practically on the streets since their mother disappeared. Ethan put down his glass and picked up the phone. "Sam, I need a favor," he said after a pause. "I need you to investigate someone for me. Olivia Martins, missing for around 3 years. She has 8-year-old twin daughters, Emma and Lily." Samuel was his best friend and lawyer, a man with contacts everywhere. If anyone could trace Olivia, it was him. "This is urgent, Sam. Do whatever it takes." Hanging up, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. It was as if fate had put those girls in his path for a reason. Maybe finding Olivia was just part of it. Those children needed help, and whether it was lingering love for Olivia or simply human compassion, he felt compelled to do something. He put the photos away and closed the keepsake box, but this time he didn't hide it in the drawer. He left it on the desk, bringing the past into the present, ready to finally face it. Tomorrow, he would return to that corner. He would earn the girl's trust and learn more about what happened to Olivia. After 9 years, he might finally get some answers. And maybe, just maybe, a chance to heal old wounds. The next morning, Ethan woke before his alarm. He'd slept little, tossing and turning as thoughts of the girls and Olivia filled his mind. He got ready carefully, choosing more casual clothes, jeans and a simple shirt, to avoid intimidating the girls. Before leaving, he stopped at a bakery and bought sandwiches, juices, and some sweets. He didn't know what they liked, so he got a bit of everything. Arriving at the corner where he'd met them, he felt a pang of anxiety. What if they didn't show up today? To his relief, there they were, Emma and Lily, arranging their shoe shine boxes. He took a breath and approached. "Good morning, girls." Emma looked up with distrust. Lily, more spontaneous, smiled. "Hey, fancy shoes guy." Ethan laughed. "You can just call me Ethan." He held up the bakery bag. "I brought breakfast. Have you eaten yet?" The girls exchanged glances. That silent communication Ethan noticed before. "Why are you doing this?" Emma asked, crossing her arms. Ethan thought quickly. He couldn't reveal the full truth yet. "Because you treated me well yesterday, and because nobody should work on an empty stomach." Emma still looked wary, but Lily inched closer. "Are there sweets in there?" "Lily!" Emma scolded. "What? I'm hungry." Ethan smiled and opened the bag. "There are sandwiches, juices, and yes, some sweets too. Take whatever you like." Lily didn't hesitate to grab some chocolate, but Emma kept her distance. "I'll leave it here," Ethan said, placing the bag on one of the boxes. "You can eat whenever you want." He sat on the improvised chair he had used the day before. "My shoes need another shine today." Emma finally relaxed a little. Business was familiar ground. $10 for the special," she said, grabbing a brush. While Emma worked on his shoes, Ethan made casual conversation, avoiding overly personal questions. He learned they liked to draw, that Emma was good at math, and that Lily wanted to be a vet. "Do you go to school?" he asked. "Sometimes," Lily replied, mouth full from the sandwich she'd decided to try. "When it's not raining and we don't have too much work." "Is the school far?" "About 4 blocks away," Emma said, finally sipping some juice. "But class isn't always open. The teacher misses a lot." Ethan nodded, storing that information away. As they chatted, he noticed Emma's watchful glances, like she expected him to reveal hidden motives at any moment. That morning, Ethan stayed for almost 2 hours. He paid generously for the shine, and this time Emma didn't question it. Before leaving, he asked, "Can I come back tomorrow?" "Why would you come back?" Emma asked. "Because I enjoy your company." The sisters exchanged yet another look. Lily answered, "Okay, but you don't have to bring so much food." Ethan smiled. "See you tomorrow, then." And so began a routine. For 2 weeks, Ethan showed up every day, always with a snack and always, coincidentally, needing his shoes polished. Over time, Emma's distrust began to wane, never entirely, since she had eyes far older than her age, but enough to allow longer conversations. One Saturday morning, Ethan brought something different, 2 new notebooks and a box of colored pencils. "You mentioned you like to draw," he explained, seeing their surprised looks. Lily held the colored pencils as though they were treasure. "Look, Emma, there's every color." Even Emma looked touched by the gift. "Thank you," she said softly, flipping through the hardcover notebook. At the end of that week, Ethan received a gift in return, a drawing made by Lily depicting 3 stick figures, 2 small ones and a larger one, holding hands. "That's you, that's Emma, and that's me," Lily explained, pointing to each figure. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "It's beautiful, Lily." "I'll keep it safe." That drawing was a turning point. From then on, barriers fell more quickly. Emma still kept some distance, but she no longer looked at Ethan like he was a constant threat. On a rainy afternoon, Ethan found them trying to shelter under the awning of a closed store. Without thinking twice, he offered them a ride to the neighbor's house where they occasionally stayed. "We don't get into cars with strangers," Emma said automatically. "After almost a month, am I still a stranger?" Ethan asked gently. The two glanced at each other, drenched and shivering with cold. "Okay," Emma finally agreed. "But we tell you the address, and you go straight there." During the short ride, Ethan watched in the rearview mirror as the girls dried themselves with the tissues he'd offered. Lily seemed relaxed, but Emma stared out the window, memorizing the route. When they arrived, a gray-haired woman appeared at the door. "They're Olivia's girls," Ethan explained. "It was raining, so I offered them a ride." The woman eyed him with the same suspicion Emma had. "And who are you?" "A friend," Lily answered before Ethan could speak. The word friend echoed in Ethan's mind the rest of the day, a small triumph, a sign he was on the right path. The following week, when temperatures dropped further, Ethan showed up with new coats for both of them. "I can't accept this," Emma said, though her eyes betrayed her desire for the warm jacket. "Why not?" Ethan asked. "Because we don't know what you want in return." Ethan crouched to her eye level. "Emma, I don't want anything in return. I just want to help you." "Why?" The question lingered in the air. Ethan considered telling her the whole truth, but knew it wasn't time yet. "Because I care about you." It was a simple but honest answer. Emma studied his face for a long moment before taking the jacket. "Thank you." That same day, just as Ethan was about to leave, Emma asked almost casually, "Are you coming back tomorrow?" Ethan felt something important shift. "Yes, whenever you want." "Okay," she said, and a small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. As he got in his car, Ethan realized he was smiling too. Amid his search for Olivia, something unexpected was happening. He was growing attached to these girls, not just because they were Olivia's daughters, but for who they were. Brave, resilient, and still capable of trusting despite everything. Their trust was a gift he never saw coming, one he now valued more than anything. Samuel Torres waited in the cafe with a folder in hand. Ethan spotted him as soon as he walked in. Sam was always punctual, always discreet. Ethan approached and shook hands with his longtime lawyer and investigator. "I hope you have good news," Ethan said, sitting down. Sam slid the folder toward him. "Depends on your definition of good. I found some information about Olivia Martins, but not much. She virtually disappeared from the map 3 years ago." Ethan opened the folder, heart pounding. There were documents, old photos, and printed reports. According to the records, she worked at an ad agency for a few years after she... Sam hesitated. "After she disappeared from my life," Ethan supplied. "Exactly. Then she landed a job at a bigger company, where she stayed until she had the twins." "And the girl's father?" Sam shook his head. "No record. The space is blank on the birth certificate." Ethan let out a long breath. He tried to push aside the thought that had nagged at him since meeting the girls. 8 years. The timeline fit perfectly with when he and Olivia had been together. Go on. "She lived in the same apartment for 5 years, paying rent regularly. Then, 3 years ago, she just left. The landlord said she paid the last month and mentioned she was moving, but left no forwarding address. And the girls? Enrolled in the local public school. Irregular attendance these past 3 years, but they were never officially withdrawn. It's as if everyone expected Olivia to return any day." Ethan flipped through the documents, pausing at a photo of Olivia taken a few years ago, leaving an office building with the girls who looked about 4 or 5. "You said she disappeared 3 years ago." "No trace since then." "Almost none," Sam replied, sipping his coffee. "Her credit card was used twice in a town about 300 miles away, shortly after she left. Then nothing. No bank activity, no utilities in her name, nothing. Like she wanted to vanish on purpose, or like someone forced her to disappear," Sam suggested. Ethan felt a chill. "How you think she could be? Let's not jump to conclusions," Sam said, shifting in his seat. "I'll keep investigating, especially in that town where the card was used. If she went there, someone might have seen her." Ethan thanked him, packed up the folder, and left. As he drove to meet the girls, his mind raced. Why would Olivia leave so abruptly? What could have happened? Ethan found Emma and Lily in their usual spot, but today he had a different proposal. "How about going to the park?" he suggested after their daily shoeshine ritual, which had become more of an excuse to meet than an actual necessity. "The park?" Lily's eyes lit up. "Yes, it's a nice day, and we could enjoy the sun, maybe get some ice cream afterward." Emma, ever cautious, asked, "What about our work?" "It's Sunday," Ethan said. "Everyone deserves a break on Sunday." After a brief, silent exchange between the sisters, Emma relented. "Okay, but just for a little while." The park was a few blocks away. As they walked, Ethan kept a respectful distance, letting the girls lead. Watching them was like seeing 2 versions of the same person, so physically alike, yet so different in temperament. At the park, Lily ran straight for the swings, while Emma stayed by Ethan, watchful. "You can go play too," he said. "I'll be right here on the bench." "I'd rather keep an eye on my sister," she replied with a maturity well beyond her 8 years. Ethan nodded, respecting her choice. You know, Emma, you take very good care of Lily. She shrugged, but Ethan noticed a touch of pride in her cheeks. Someone has to watch out for her. She trusts people too easily. How did you know you could trust me? Ethan asked, genuinely curious. Emma fixed him with eyes far too serious for a child. I'm still not sure I can, but you haven't done anything bad so far, and Lily likes you. At that moment, Lily shouted from the swing, Emma, come on! It's so high. Emma's expression softened, and for an instant, Ethan saw the child behind the tough facade. Go ahead, he encouraged. I promise I won't move from here. After a moment of hesitation, Emma ran to her sister, and soon they were competing to see who could swing higher. Ethan watched them with a mix of joy and concern. Somewhere out there, Olivia had left these girls behind. Why, that question still consumed him. An hour later, sitting on a bench eating ice cream, Ethan tried a few subtle questions. Do you remember much about the place you used to live with your mom? Lily licked her ice cream before answering. It was small, but we had our own room with blue curtains. Mom sewed those curtains, Emma added. She was good at making things. What did she do for work? Ethan asked, trying to keep his tone casual. She worked in an office with lots of people, Lily said. Sometimes we went there after school. Did she like her job? Emma shrugged. I think so. But she was always tired. Did she talk about her past? Where she grew up, old friends? The girls exchanged yet another of their meaningful looks. Not much, Emma finally said. But she had old pictures in a drawer from when she was younger. And she had a diary, Lily exclaimed. Remember, Emma? That green notebook she wrote in at night. Emma shot her sister a reproachful look. We weren't supposed to snoop through her stuff, Lily. Ethan tried not to show his excitement. A diary might hold crucial information. Do you know where that diary is now? The neighbors saved our things when we had to leave the apartment, Emma explained. She gave some of it to us, but other stuff is in her basement. Ethan made a mental note to check it out. Did your mom have many friends? Anyone who visited you? No, Emma answered. It was mostly just the three of us. The conversation flowed to other topics, and soon they were laughing about school stories and the mischief they got into. Ethan listened intently, absorbing every detail and potential clue about the life Olivia had built after leaving him. As the sun began to set, Ethan walked them back to the neighbor's house. Miss Clara, as the girls called her, seemed to have grown used to Ethan's presence, though she still watched him with cautious eyes. Their birthday is next week, the older woman mentioned as the girls went inside to wash up. They're turning 9. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Their birthday, yet another confirmation of the timeline in which they were conceived. Thanks for letting me know. I'll plan something special. As he said goodbye to the girls, Lily surprised him with a quick hug. Emma merely waved, but her gaze no longer held that initial distrust. Driving home, Ethan was deep in thought. The coincidences were too many to ignore. The timing of Olivia's disappearance, the girls' ages, the necklace, everything pointed to a possibility he barely dared to consider. Could there be a deeper connection between him and these twins than he initially suspected? He called Sam before reaching his apartment. I need you to ramp up the search. Any information about Olivia, no matter how small, could be crucial. I'll do what I can, his friend replied. But be prepared. Sometimes the answers we find aren't what we expect. Ethan knew that. But after spending the afternoon with Emma and Lily, he was more determined than ever to find the truth, whatever it might be. And as he drove home, he realized that no matter what he learned about Olivia, something unexpected had already happened. Those two girls had found a place in his heart he hadn't known existed. Autumn arrived with a sudden drop in temperature. That morning, Ethan waited for the girls at their usual spot, but they never showed. After waiting 30 minutes, he decided to check Ms. Clara's house. The older woman opened the door with a worried expression. They're sick, she said, before Ethan could even ask. They spent the night at the farmer's market trying to earn money, came back soaked in the rain. Now both of them have fevers. May I see them? Ethan asked, trying to hide his concern. Ms. Clara hesitated, then nodded, opening the door wider. They're in the back room. Ethan followed her down a narrow hallway to a small bedroom. Emma and Lily lay on a mattress on the floor, bundled in colorful blankets. Lily slept fitfully, while Emma, despite her fever, was still alert. "What are you doing here?" she croaked, her voice raspy. "I was worried when you didn't show up," Ethan said, crouching beside the mattress. "How are you feeling?" "It's just a cold," Emma replied, but a cough betrayed her attempt to sound tough. Ethan placed his hand on her forehead, then on Lily's. Both were burning up. "They need a doctor," he said, turning to Mrs. Clara. "I know," the older woman sighed, "but I can't take them. My knees are bad, and the clinic is far." "I'll take them," Ethan decided immediately. "If that's okay," he addressed both Mrs. Clara and Emma, who still watched him with feverish eyes. "Please do," the older woman said. "I'm worried about them." Emma didn't protest, which only worried Ethan more. If she was letting him help this easily, she must really feel terrible. 20 minutes later, Ethan was carrying Lily in his arms, while Emma, pale but determined, walked by his side to the car. At the nearest private hospital, they didn't have to wait, one advantage of a well-known name in town. The doctor examined them carefully. "Early-stage pneumonia," he said, speaking to Ethan. "You caught it in time, which is good, but they need medication and total rest." "They'll be okay?" Ethan asked, anxiety gripping his chest. "With proper care, yes." The doctor looked at the girls. "But no going back out on the street for the next few days. Understand?" Emma frowned. "But what about money? We need to work." "Don't worry about that now," Ethan interjected. "Let's focus on getting you better first." The doctor wrote a prescription and gave them detailed instructions. While waiting for the hospital pharmacy to fill the meds, Emma asked, voice still weak, "Why are you doing all this for us?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because I care about you, more than I ever thought I would." It was the truth. Over the last few weeks, the girls had become part of his routine, his thoughts, his life. It wasn't just because they were Olivia's children. It was because of who they were. Returning to Mrs. Clara's house, it was clear the small back room wasn't ideal for their recovery. The space was damp, cramped, and cold. "Ms. Clara," Ethan began cautiously, "I know this might sound odd, but I'd like to take the girls to my place until they recover. I have room, heating, and I can make sure they take their meds on time." The older woman looked relieved. "That would be best for them, but—" She glanced toward Emma. The girl coughed again, then answered, "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," Ethan said firmly. "I really want to help." Lily, stirring from her feverish state, spoke up. "I want to go with Ethan. Emma, it's too cold here." After another round of coughing and a meaningful look at her sister, Emma finally agreed. Ms. Clara helped gather their clothes and few belongings, handing everything to Ethan in a grocery bag. "Take good care of them," she said, a plea in her tired eyes. "I promise," Ethan replied. Ethan's apartment occupied the top floor of a modern building downtown. It was large and elegant, but decorated minimally, reflecting the solitary life he led. "You live here alone?" Lily asked, eyes wide despite her fever. "Yes," Ethan said, guiding them down the hallway. "You'll stay in the guest room. I hardly use it, but it's all set up." The room had 2 twin beds, a big window overlooking the city, and a built-in closet. It was simple, but far more comfortable than the mattress on Ms. Clara's floor. "Looks like a hotel," Lily murmured, as Ethan helped her lie down. In the days that followed, Ethan adapted his entire routine. He worked from home, alternating between video conferences and preparing soups the girls could manage to eat. He checked their fevers every few hours, made sure they took their meds, and even read stories to Lily at bedtime. Emma, though more reserved, also began to let her guard down. On the second night, when Ethan was checking her fever, she lightly gripped his wrist. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "No one's taken care of us like this since Mom left." Her words struck Ethan like an arrow. These children, so young, had already endured so much. He felt a renewed determination to find Olivia and understand what truly happened. On the 4th day, the fever finally broke. The girls were still weak, but color was returning to their cheeks. During breakfast, Ethan noticed a shift. "Ethan, can I have more juice?" Lily asked. It wasn't the request, but how she said his name, not Mr., not Sir, but simply Ethan, with a familiarity that hadn't been there before. "Of course you can, Lily," he smiled, refilling her glass. Later, while the two watched cartoons, Emma also called out, "Ethan, what time is it?" Again, that warm feeling in his chest, as if, amid their illness and recovery, an invisible barrier had fallen. That afternoon, while the girls napped, Ethan got a call from Sam. "I've got news," the investigator said. "I've found Olivia." Ethan's heart pounded. "Where? How is she?" "She's in a town called Riverton, about 300 miles away. She's working in a department store under the name Paula Silver. She has a small apartment and, from what I can tell, lives alone." "Are you sure it's her?" "Absolutely. I have a photo. I'm sending it to your email now." With trembling hands, Ethan opened the attachment. It was definitely Olivia, though she looked different. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner, and she wore an expression he didn't recognize. "Should I approach her?" Sam asked. "No, not yet." Ethan thought of the girls resting in the next room. "I want to understand the situation first. Does she seem okay?" There was a pause. "That's the strangest part. She seems to be living a completely different life. No luxuries, working 6 days a week, barely going out. It's like she's hiding, or running." "From what?" Ethan murmured, more to himself than to Sam. "I don't know, but I'll find out. Something about this doesn't add up, Ethan." After hanging up, Ethan stared at Olivia's photo for a long time. The woman he once knew so well now seemed like a stranger. What could have driven her to abandon her own daughters and live under a different name? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft cough. Emma stood in the office doorway. "Who were you talking to?" she asked. "A friend from work," Ethan replied, quickly closing the email. "How are you feeling?" "Better." She walked closer. "Ethan, do we have to go back to Ms. Clara's house tomorrow?" There was a vulnerability in her voice he hadn't heard before. "Not if you don't want to," he answered cautiously. "You can stay here until you're fully recovered." Emma nodded, relieved. "Lily really likes it here. The TV, the food." You, Ethan ventured. She shrugged, but a small smile appeared on her lips. "You're not so bad." Coming from Emma, that was practically a declaration of affection. Ethan smiled back, feeling a wave of protectiveness for this child trying so hard to be strong. That night, watching them sleep, Ethan made a decision. He would find Olivia and learn the truth, but not before ensuring Emma and Lily were safe, no matter what happened next. Because at some point, without him noticing, they had stopped being just the daughters of the woman he once loved. They had become important in their own right. Two kids who happened into his life by chance and now seemed destined to stay. Autumn arrived with a sudden drop in temperature. The city woke up grey and damp after a night of heavy rain. Driving slowly on the wet streets, Ethan scanned the sidewalks. The girls weren't at their usual spot, and something told him he needed to find them. That's when he saw them. They weren't in their usual place, but under a wider awning a few blocks away, huddled against the cold wind. Even from a distance, Ethan sensed something was wrong. He parked quickly and crossed the street. Emma leaned against the wall, paler than usual. Lily sat curled up, hugging her knees. "Girls, are you all right?" he asked, approaching carefully. "We're fine," Emma said automatically, but her voice was rough, her breathing labored. Ethan crouched to check Lily, who was shivering despite a thin blanket. "You're both sick," he stated, gently touching Lily's forehead. She was burning up. "How long have you been like this?" "Since last night," Lily said between coughs. "How we got soaked coming back from the market. Why didn't you stay at Ms. Clara's today?" "We need to work," Emma replied, before a coughing fit cut her off. "We don't have enough savings to get sick." The statement, delivered so matter-of-factly by an 8-year-old, hit Ethan like a punch. Most kids that age worry about cartoons or toys. Emma and Lily worried about money to survive. "You need a doctor," he said firmly. "May I take you to the hospital?" Emma hesitated, torn between need and distrust. "We don't have money for a doctor." Don't worry about that, I'll handle it. Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. It hurts here, she said, pointing to her chest. And it's hard to breathe. Ethan looked at Emma, waiting for her approval. After a moment of hesitation, she nodded. Okay, but only because Lily's worse off. He helped them into his car, turning the heater on high. At the nearest private hospital, they were seen right away. Another perk of having a recognized name. The doctor examined them thoroughly. Early-stage pneumonia, he explained, looking at Ethan. Luckily, you caught it soon, but they need antibiotics and total rest in a warm environment. They'll be okay, Ethan asked, feeling a knot in his stomach. Yes, with proper care. The doctor adjusted his glasses, eyeing Ethan curiously, probably wondering about his relationship to the girls. But absolutely no going back out on the streets in this weather. They need a stable, heated place. Emma frowned. But our work? We need to earn money. The doctor looked surprised to hear such concern from a child so young. Your health is more important right now, he said gently. A few days of rest and you'll be back on your feet. After they received initial medication in the ER, the doctor handed Ethan a prescription for antibiotics and detailed recommendations. Are they your daughters? He asked Ethan quietly, while the girls waited in the next room. No, they're... Ethan hesitated. How could he explain Emma and Lily's place in his life? They're my friend's children. I'm taking care of them for now. The doctor nodded, asking no further questions. Leaving the hospital, it was almost dark. Ethan drove the girls to Miss Clara's house. She opened the door, obviously worried. Thank goodness you found them, she exclaimed. They left this morning even though they were sick. I couldn't stop them. The doctor said they have early pneumonia, Ethan explained. They need total rest. Miss Clara sighed, looking around her tiny home. I'll do my best, but there's not much space. They sleep in the back room and it's damp this time of year. Could I help with something? Ethan offered. Maybe a space heater. That would be a blessing, she replied. And the medicines too, they're expensive, and my pension barely covers my bills. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of everything. While the girls got settled in the small room, Ethan went out and returned an hour later with a portable heater, the prescribed medications, and a bag of groceries. I brought some things that might help, he said, handing everything to Miss Clara. The older woman glanced in the bag, visibly moved. You're an angel for these girls. Since their mother disappeared, they haven't had anyone who truly cared. Her words weighed on Ethan's heart. These children had been through so much, so young. In the back room, Emma and Lily were already lying on the floor mattress, covered by a few colorful blankets. Lily slept fitfully, while Emma, still feverish, watched him warily. I brought a space heater, Ethan said, setting it up. And the meds the doctor prescribed. Why are you doing all this? Emma asked, her voice rough. Ethan paused for a moment. Because I care about you, more than I ever thought I would. It was the truth. In recent weeks, they had become part of his life, not just as Olivia's children, but because of who they were. But we're not even anything to you, Emma insisted. Sometimes people care about each other simply because they do, Ethan said, adjusting the blanket over her. Now try to rest. I'll come by tomorrow. For the next 3 days, Ethan visited Miss Clara's house faithfully, bringing food, checking the girls' meds, even reading Lily a bedtime story whenever she asked. By the 3rd day, the fever had finally broken. The girls were still weak, but gradually regaining color. It was during one of these visits that Ethan noticed a shift. Ethan, are you coming back tomorrow? Lily asked. It wasn't just the question, but how naturally she used his name. Not Mr., not Sir, but Ethan, as though he'd always been in their lives. Of course I'll be back, Lily. He smiled, feeling that warmth in his chest again. Later, as he was preparing to leave, Emma walked him to the door. Thanks for everything, Ethan, she said softly. Lily really liked the stories. Again, that sensation, as though in the midst of sickness and recovery, an invisible barrier had come down. Leaving Mrs. Clara's house, Ethan got a call from Sam. I have news, the investigator said. I've found Olivia. Ethan felt his heart race. Where? How is she? In Riverton, about 300 miles from here. She's working in a department store under the name Paula Silva. She has a small apartment and, from what I can gather, lives alone. Are you sure it's her? Positive. I have a photo. I'm sending it to your email now. Arriving home, Ethan opened the email with trembling hands. It was Olivia without a doubt, though she looked different. Shorter hair, a thinner face, and a haunted expression he barely recognized. He called Sam back. Should I approach her? The investigator asked. No, not yet. Ethan thought of the girls he'd just left. I want to understand more about the situation first. Does she seem okay? There was a pause. That's the strangest part. She's living a totally different life. No luxuries, working 6 days a week, barely going out. Almost like she's hiding or running from something. From what? Ethan wondered, more to himself than Sam. I don't know yet, but I'll find out. Something doesn't add up here, Ethan. After hanging up, Ethan stared at Olivia's photo for a long time. The woman he once knew now felt like a stranger. What would make her abandon her children and hide under a false identity? He thought of Emma and Lily, sick on a floor mattress while their mother lived hundreds of miles away. None of it made sense. The Olivia he knew would never abandon her kids like this. There's more to this story, he thought. And he decided that, as much as he wanted answers, his focus had to be on the girls. He would find Olivia, yes, but first he'd ensure Emma and Lily were safe and cared for. Because at some point, without realizing it, they'd ceased to be just the daughters of the woman he once loved. They'd become important to him in their own right, two children who had wandered into his life and now seemed destined to stay. The girls' recovery was gradual. Ethan kept his daily visits to Ms. Clara's, bringing homemade soups he'd ordered especially for them, storybooks, and a small board game to help them pass the time while resting. One particularly cold afternoon, while Lily slept soundly, Ethan and Emma played checkers on Ms. Clara's small kitchen table. You're good at this, Emma commented, eyeing the board intently. My dad taught me when I was about your age, Ethan said. We used to play on weekends. Emma captured one of his pieces, thinking hard. Mom used to play Uno with us sometimes, when she wasn't too tired from work. It was rare for Emma to mention her mother voluntarily, and Ethan seized the moment. She worked a lot, Emma nodded. Sometimes 2 jobs. She said it was so we could have a better life. That night, as Ethan was about to leave, he noticed Miss Clara looked more tired than usual. The older woman was obviously worn out from days of caring for the girls. You need rest too, Ethan said, concerned. It's not easy at my age, she sighed. And now my daughter called saying she needs my help with her own kids next week. I don't know what to do with these 2 still recovering. Ethan saw his chance. Ms. Clara, what if the girls stay with me for a few days? I have the space, I can keep looking after them, and you can help your daughter without worrying. She studied him carefully. They seem to trust you, and heaven knows I could use the break, but... She hesitated. Are you sure? That's no small responsibility. I'm sure. I want to help. As expected, the idea got mixed reactions from the twins. Lily was immediately excited, while Emma frowned warily. How long? Emma asked. Until you're fully better and Ms. Clara returns, Ethan replied. Can we bring our stuff? Of course. Anything you want. After a typical silent exchange with her sister, Emma finally agreed. Okay, but just for a few days. The following day, Ethan picked up the girls. Their temporary move was little more than a grocery bag of clothes and a small box of personal items. Lily also clutched a worn stuffed bear, hugging it throughout the ride. Entering Ethan's apartment, their reactions were immediate. Lily ran from room to room, marveling at the spaciousness and city view. Emma lingered near the door, quietly taking everything in. This will be your room, Ethan said, showing them a room with 2 twin beds. Feel free to arrange things however you want. Why are there 2 beds here? Emma asked suspiciously. Were you expecting us? Ethan smiled. It's just the guest room. Sometimes I have friends visit from out of town. She seemed satisfied with the explanation, though her watchful expression remained. Over the first day, Ethan realized how his solitary lifestyle had left many gaps in his routine. He had to figure out appropriate meals for children, reorganize his work schedule, and learn which TV shows were okay to watch. It was all new, but strangely, it didn't feel like a burden. That first night, he brought each of them a glass of warm milk before bed. Emma sat on her bed, flipping through one of the books he'd bought them a few days earlier. "This apartment is pretty big for just one person," she remarked, accepting the glass. "Sometimes it feels too big," Ethan admitted. "It's nice to have company now." Lily, already in her bed, asked, "Have you always lived alone?" "Not always. I lived with my parents until college, then shared a place with friends. I've only been on my own a few years." "Did you never want to get married and have kids?" Lily asked, in that disarmingly direct way children do. The question caught Ethan off guard. He thought of Olivia, of how abruptly their plans had ended. "I did, yes," he answered honestly, "but life doesn't always go as planned." Emma watched the conversation in silence, absorbing every word. Over the next few days, a surprisingly natural routine emerged. Ethan rescheduled most of his work to be done from home. In the mornings, he prepared breakfast for the three of them. While he worked in his office, the girls read, watched TV, or simply rested. In the afternoons, they often played board games or just talked. On the third day, Ethan found Emma in the kitchen, reaching for a cup in a high cabinet. "Let me help," he offered, taking the cup down for her. "Thanks," she said. Then, hesitantly, "I feel like we're giving you a lot of trouble." "Not at all," Ethan replied. "I was tired of being alone here anyway. When we leave, will you be sad?" The question, so straightforward, caught Ethan unprepared. "Yes," he admitted, "but that doesn't mean we can't keep seeing each other." "How?" "We can plan outings. You can visit me on weekends." Emma seemed to mull over this, sipping her water. "Lily would like that. She talks about you all the time." "And you?" Ethan ventured. She shrugged, but a tiny smile tugged at her lips. "You're nice, not like other grown-ups." A week passed, and what was meant to be a temporary stay started feeling permanent. The girls had fully recovered, but Ms. Clara extended her visit to her daughters. Nobody seemed in a hurry to change the arrangement. That Sunday, Ethan took the girls to the park. It was sunny, a perfect day for a picnic and some outdoor games. It was the first time they went out as if they were a normal family, free from the context of illness or necessity. "Careful, Lily." "Don't climb too high," Emma shouted as her sister scaled the jungle gym. "Let her have a little fun," Ethan said from the bench, smiling. "I'm watching. She won't fall." Emma eyed him, gauging his sincerity. "That's what parents say, you know, that they won't let you fall." "And is that bad?" "No, it's just—" She hesitated. "We've fallen before." The bluntness of her words carried the weight of all the abandonment they'd endured. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his throat. "Emma, I can't promise you'll never get hurt or feel sad, but I can promise that as long as you're with me, I'll do my best to keep you safe." She didn't reply, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. That night, back at the apartment, Lily fell asleep on the couch while they watched TV. Ethan carefully picked her up, carrying her to bed. Emma observed his every movement. "You seem like someone who's had siblings," she remarked as he tucked Lily in. "No, I'm an only child, but I always wanted siblings. Having a sister is nice, even if she can be annoying," Emma said with a slight smile. Then, after a pause, "Ethan, why are you being so nice to us?" The question demanded an honest answer, but Ethan knew it wasn't time to reveal everything about Olivia. "Because you're special. And somehow, meeting you filled a void I didn't even know was there." Emma nodded, as though she understood perfectly. "We feel the same way. Less empty since you showed up." That night marked a subtle but significant change. Over the following days, Emma started letting her guard down even more. She asked about Ethan's life, laughed openly at his jokes, even let him help with her hair in the morning. Lily, always more affectionate, now hugged him freely when he came home from work, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. For Ethan, the transformation was profound. The once empty apartment now felt alive. His solitary routine now had purpose. Searching for Olivia was still important, but it was no longer his only motivation. Emma and Lily were no longer just a means to find answers about his past. They were his present. An unexpected present that had completely shifted his perspective on what truly mattered in life. Sunday breakfast had become a tradition. Ethan made pancakes, Lily's favorite, while the girls set the table. It was their third weekend together, and the routine already felt natural, as if it had always been this way. Lily chatted about the movie they'd watched the previous night, while Emma helped Ethan flip the pancakes. The once silent, empty apartment now echoed with laughter and conversation. "I think this one looks more like a monster than a pancake," Ethan joked, eyeing a misshapen blob in the pan. "We can still eat it," Emma replied with a smile that appeared more and more often now. Sitting at the table to enjoy breakfast, Ethan realized how these simple domestic moments had become precious. The way Lily always ate the strawberries first, how Emma liked her juice without ice. The small details that made each girl unique. "Can we go to the zoo today?" Lily asked, her mouth still full of pancake. "Sure, if you want," Ethan answered. "And then can we get ice cream?" she continued, already excited. "Only if Emma agrees." Emma shrugged, but there was a twinkle in her eye. "Fine by me." The day unfolded like a perfect picture, a visit to the zoo, ice cream at the park, laughter all around. On the way home, Lily dozed off in the back seat, exhausted from the day's activities. "She always sleeps in cars," Emma said, looking at her sister. "Even on short rides," Ethan smiled, watching Lily in the rearview mirror. "Did you sleep too when you were smaller?" "No, I always stayed awake, looking out the window." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, only the gentle sound of the radio filling the car. Then, unexpectedly, Emma asked, "How much longer are we staying with you?" The question took Ethan by surprise. "Why do you ask, Emma?" She didn't answer immediately, keeping her gaze on the scenery outside. "Ms. Clara came back from her daughter's. We should have gone back already." Ethan felt a pang. She was right. What started as a temporary arrangement had turned into something more, without any formal discussion. "Do you want to go back?" he asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. "I'm not sure," Emma admitted. "It's nice here with you. Lily loves it, and She trailed off. "You like it too?" Emma nodded almost imperceptibly. "But what if you disappear too?" The quiet question held the weight of every abandonment they'd faced. Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Emma, look at me," he said, as he stopped at a traffic light. "I'm not going to disappear. Mom promised she'd come back." People always say things like that, but no one ever stays. There was so much pain in those words, so much distrust learned the hard way. Ethan wanted to hug her, but knew words were necessary first. "I can't speak for your mother. I don't know why she left, but I can speak for myself. As long as you want me around, I'll be here. I won't vanish. Promise. Promise." She studied him, as though searching for any hidden lie in his eyes. "Even if we go back to Ms. Clara's, even then, we can plan visits, hang out on weekends. It doesn't matter where you live, as long as we stay in each other's lives." Emma seemed to consider his words carefully. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. "I'm afraid I'll really start to like you and then you'll leave." The honesty of that confession hit Ethan hard. It was the first time Emma had openly expressed her fear of loss, her reluctance to get attached. "I understand that fear, Emma. Really, I do. But sometimes we have to take a chance on trusting people, even when we're scared. That's how we build real connections." When they arrived home, Ethan carried a sleeping Lily to her bed. Emma followed in silence, watching as he tucked Lily in. Before he left the room, Emma turned to him. "Ethan, thanks for today." "It was my pleasure, Emma. And I want to stay here with you." She spoke only a few words, but to Ethan they meant the world, a hard-won trust. Ethan's phone rang as he helped Emma with her math homework at the kitchen table. Seeing Sam's name on the screen, his heart sped up. "I need to take this," he said, getting up. "It's about work." Emma nodded, returning to her problems. Ethan headed to the office and shut the door. "Sam, any updates?" "I found Olivia," the investigator replied bluntly. "She's living in Riverton, working in a department store under the name Paula Silva. Ethan sank into a chair, gripping the phone tightly. How is she? Seems stable. Rents a small apartment, works 6 days a week, living modestly. Nothing that explains why she'd leave 2 kids on the street. The reminder of the abandonment made Ethan's stomach churn. Even after weeks with the girls, it was still hard to fathom someone leaving 2 small children behind. I need to talk to her, he decided. Can you send me the address? It's in your email. Want me to keep digging? Not for now. I'll confront her in person. After hanging up, Ethan sat there going over what he'd say to Olivia. What words could express the gravity of what she'd done? How could he confront her without losing control? 2 days later, Ethan was driving along the highway to Riverton. He decided to go alone without the girls. He needed to find out the truth before placing them face to face with the mother who'd left them when they were barely toddlers. Before leaving, he told Emma and Lily he had important business to attend to. Emma, perceptive as always, suspected more. "This is about our mom, isn't it?" she asked as Ethan leaned down to kiss her forehead goodbye. He hesitated but chose honesty. "Yes, but I need to check some things first. I promise I'll tell you everything when I get back." "Is she alive?" "She is, and I'm going to find out why she did what she did." Emma's eyes hardened, but she asked no more questions. She simply nodded as though trying to process the information. The store where Olivia worked was in Riverton's commercial district. Ethan parked across the street and watched for a few minutes. It was a modest establishment, with neatly arranged displays, far from luxurious. Gathering his courage, he crossed the street and entered. A few customers browsed the aisles, and 3 sales associates were on the floor. None were Olivia. Ethan asked a young woman stocking a shelf about Paula Silva. "She's in the stockroom, I'll get her," the associate said cheerfully. Ethan waited, heart hammering in his chest. When he finally saw her emerge from a back door, time seemed to stop. Olivia was thinner, with hair barely touching her shoulders. She wore a simple uniform, dark slacks and a white shirt with the store logo. But it was her eyes that had changed the most. They held a weariness, a sadness that hadn't been there 9 years ago. She looked in his direction, at first not recognizing him. Then her eyes widened, and the clipboard in her hand fell to the floor. "Ethan," she whispered, shocked. "Hello, Olivia." She glanced around nervously, as if seeking an escape route. How did you find me?" "We need to talk," he said calmly. "It's about Emma and Lily." Her face went white. "My daughters, you found them. Are they okay?" The mix of fear and hope in her question made Ethan's throat tighten. How dare she ask that after what she'd done? "Yes, they're okay now, but certainly not because of you." Olivia recoiled as though he'd slapped her. "I know what I did is unforgivable," she said in a low voice. "But please, let me explain. Can we talk somewhere else?" 30 minutes later, they sat in a small cafe a couple of blocks from the store. Olivia had managed to get an emergency break from work, but her hands shook so badly she could hardly hold her coffee cup. "How did you find them?" she asked, as soon as they sat down. "By chance. Emma and Lily were shining shoes on the streets. Olivia at 8 years old," Ethan said, failing to mask his anger. "One of them wore a necklace I recognized." Olivia instinctively touched her own neck, as though searching for the crescent moon pendant she no longer had. "The crescent moon? The one you gave me," she murmured. "Yes. That's how I knew they were yours. They've practically lived on the streets, relying on occasional help from an elderly neighbor." Tears rolled down Olivia's cheeks. "I never wanted that for them, I swear." "What exactly did you think would happen, Olivia? You left 2 toddlers alone." She lowered her head, shoulders shaking with sobs. "I was desperate. I had nowhere to go, no way to feed them. I thought someone would find them quickly, a good family, someone who could give them what I couldn't. You abandoned them, hoping some stranger would take them in." Ethan struggled to keep his voice down. "What if the wrong sort of person found them? Ever think of that?" "Of course I did." Olivia looked up, eyes red. "I agonized over it for days. But I had no options, Ethan. There are always options besides abandoning your kids in the street. She wiped her tears with a napkin. Not in my case. I was already living on the street, with no food, no money. I tried shelters, social services, churches. None would take me in with 2 children. Her voice cracked. One night, when they were crying from hunger and I had nothing to give, I made the hardest decision of my life. Ethan watched her, trying to gauge whether the regret was real. Where did you leave them? On the steps of a church. It was late, but the lights were on and people were inside. I left them with a blanket, the necklace, and a note. She took a shaky breath. In the note, I asked that they be cared for, gave their names, said I'd return when I could. But you never did. I tried, she said, voice raw. A few months later, when I finally got a job, I went back to that church. But there was no sign of them. No one knew what had happened. Ethan frowned, realizing something didn't line up. The girls told me you only disappeared 3 years ago, leaving a note. Olivia looked genuinely puzzled. What do you mean? They were only 2 when I left them. That was 6 years ago. They remember you, Olivia. They remember you singing them to sleep, living in a house with blue curtains. That's impossible. She shook her head. Emma and Lily had just turned 2 when I abandoned them. The words seemed to burn on her tongue. Something was off, but Ethan decided to file it away for now. Why did you vanish from my life? He asked, changing the focus. One day we were happy. The next you were gone. Olivia pulled her hands off the table, avoiding his gaze. That's complicated too. I'm tired of complications, Olivia. I want the truth. She took a deep breath. I found out I was pregnant. I confirmed it the week I disappeared. I panicked, Ethan. You were so focused on your career, talking about expanding your company, traveling. There was no room for an unplanned pregnancy. Ethan felt like he'd been punched in the gut. You were pregnant, with the twins. She nodded, still not meeting his eyes. Yes, I was afraid of your reaction, thought you weren't ready to be a father. So I decided to vanish and try to raise them on my own. Why didn't you at least give me a choice? Ethan's voice rose, drawing the attention of a few patrons. How could you make a decision like that alone, Olivia? I was scared, she fired back. I was only 22. You were building your future, and suddenly I was carrying not 1 but 2 babies. They're my daughters, Ethan muttered, realization crashing over him. This whole time they were my daughters. Yes, Olivia confirmed, finally meeting his eyes. And they look so much like you, especially Emma. The way she furrows her brow when she's concentrating, it's exactly you. Ethan leaned back in his chair, reeling from the revelation he'd suspected, but actually hearing it was different. Then what happened? Olivia drew in a deep, trembling breath. The first few months were rough, but I got a job and a little place to rent. When the girls were born, I thought the worst was behind me. But then I lost my job, rent went up, everything fell apart. In a matter of months, I was on the street with 2 newborns. You never thought to contact me. Every day, tears glistened in her eyes again. But I was ashamed. And so much time had passed. I assumed you'd moved on, maybe even hated me for what I'd done. Ethan sensed she was still hiding something. You're not telling me everything. Olivia was silent for a long moment, tracing the rim of her coffee cup with a shaking finger. When I left the girls at that church, I wasn't just broke, Ethan. I was mentally unwell, deeply depressed, suicidal thoughts. Olivia, I left them because I was afraid of what I might do if they stayed with me, she confessed, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't trust myself. I believed they'd be safer without me. Ethan tried to process that. If what she said was true, her terrible decision came from utter desperation, not pure negligence. What happened after that? I wandered for a while. Eventually, I was admitted to a psychiatric facility after a suicide attempt. She didn't finish the sentence. I spent nearly 2 years there, getting treatment. When I got out, I started from zero, changed my name to leave that past behind, found a job, tried to rebuild my life. But I never stopped thinking about them, wondering where they were, if they were safe. Why didn't you look for them when you got better? I did, but I had no leads. The church where I left them had closed. No one knew anything. And besides, she faltered, I was terrified of what I'd find. What if they were happy with another family? If they'd been adopted by people better than me, what right did I have to barge into their lives? There was a twisted logic in that, if not a justification. Ethan still felt anger at the abandonment, but he saw the complexity now. They weren't adopted, Olivia. They grew up on the streets, her face contorted with pure anguish. How could I do that to them? My own daughters. Her body sagged, as though the guilt were a physical weight. I'll never forgive myself. It's not about forgiveness now, Ethan said firmly. It's about responsibility. What do you plan to do? Olivia raised her eyes, determination shining through tears. I want to see them. Explain, beg for their forgiveness. Do anything I can to make up for the lost years. It won't be easy. They've grown up without you, Olivia. Emma especially carries a lot of anger. I know, but I have to try. Ethan studied her a long moment, deciding what to do. I'll talk to them first, prepare them. Driving back, Ethan's mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions. Part of him wanted to protect the girls, keep them far from the woman who'd abandoned them. Another part recognized that no matter what Olivia had done, she was their mother, and he was their father. A truth he was still trying to fully grasp. How would he explain to the girls that their mother had resurfaced? That he was their biological dad, a fact he himself hadn't known until a few hours ago. When he arrived, he found Emma and Lily watching TV in the living room. Lily ran over to hug him as soon as he walked in. You're back. Did you bring us anything? Ethan smiled, seeing her now with fresh eyes. His daughter. How had he missed the resemblance before? Not this time, princess, but I do have something important to tell you. Emma turned off the TV, looking at him intently. It's about Mom, isn't it? Ethan nodded, sitting between them on the couch. Yes, it is. I found her today. Lily's eyes widened. So Mom's really alive. Where is she? Why did she leave us? One question at a time, Lily, Ethan said gently, drawing a deep breath. I'll tell you what I found out, but it's a difficult story to hear. Over the next few minutes, Ethan recounted a simplified version of what Olivia had told him, leaving out the most disturbing details, but being honest about the abandonment. He explained that she'd been ill, not physically but emotionally, and had made a terrible choice in a moment of deep despair. She left us on the street, Emma asked, her voice cold. Like trash? No, Emma. She left you at a church, hoping you'd be found quickly and taken somewhere safe. But we weren't. No, you weren't. And it's tearing her apart. She never imagined you'd end up on the streets. Lily, who'd been quiet until then, spoke in a small voice. She wants to see us. Yes, she does, but only if you want to see her. I want to, Lily said immediately. I want to see Mom. Emma crossed her arms, her face set. You can if you want, Lily. I don't want to. Ethan sighed, having expected this reaction. That's okay, Emma. No one will force you. Why are you defending her? Emma asked bitterly. She abandoned us. I'm not defending her. I'm just trying to understand. And there's something else I need to tell you both. The girls watched him, eyes fixed. She told me something today I never knew. Something very important. He paused, summoning courage. I'm your father, your biological father. Lily put her hands over her mouth, eyes huge. You're our real dad. Yes, Lily. Your mom was pregnant when she disappeared. I never knew she was expecting, much less that there were two of you. Emma looked at him with an unreadable expression. You didn't know? She never told you? No. She was scared I'd react badly, thought I wasn't ready to be a dad. By the time she considered telling me, things had gotten terrible. She felt she couldn't come back. So that's why she left us, because you didn't know about us. No, Emma, she left because she was desperate and believed she had no way to care for you. If I'd known, I never would have let you go through what you did. The girl was silent for a long moment, absorbing the news. Is that why you've been taking care of us? Because you found out you're our dad? No, Emma. I started looking after you before I even suspected. I do it because I care about you, because you're special to me. More silence. Then, in a small voice, if you really are our dad, does that mean you'll stay with us forever? Ethan felt tears burning his eyes. It means I'll do everything in my power to make sure we're never separated again. You, Lily, me, and, if you want, your mom too." Lily hugged him instantly, but Emma stayed apart, processing everything. The next morning, as Ethan prepared breakfast, Emma appeared in the kitchen. "I've been thinking," she said, serious as ever. "I think I do want to see Mom. Not to forgive her, but to understand." Ethan nodded, respecting her decision. "I'll arrange it, whenever you feel ready." That weekend, Olivia arrived at Ethan's apartment, looking pale with nerves. When the door opened, she saw the girls on the couch, side by side, waiting. "Hi," she said, voice almost failing her. "Hi, Mom," Lily replied, standing to hug her. Olivia dropped to her knees, wrapping her arms around her younger daughter, tears streaming freely. "You've grown so much, my love. You're so beautiful." Emma remained on the couch, watching with a neutral expression. When Olivia finally released Lily and turned to her, words seemed to fail both of them. Pain, guilt, and hope flickered over Olivia's face. "Emma," Olivia said, taking a hesitant step closer. "Why'd you do it?" the girl asked bluntly. "Why'd you leave us?" Olivia drew a deep breath. It was the question she'd known was coming, the one she dreaded most. "Because I was very sick here," she said, tapping her head, "and I was afraid of hurting you, or worse. I thought you'd have a better chance without me." "Do you know what we went through?" Emma's voice trembled. "Living on the streets, hungry, cold." "No," Olivia admitted, tears flooding her eyes again. "And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right, Emma. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but—" "You don't," Emma interrupted. "But Ethan says you've changed, that you deserve a chance." Olivia looked at Ethan, tears of gratitude welling in her eyes. "What do you think?" she asked Emma, voice shaking. Emma shrugged, trying to appear indifferent, though she couldn't hide her vulnerability completely. "I think I can give you a chance. Not for you, but for Lily. She misses you." It was more than Olivia had dared hope for. With a sob, she moved to the couch, keeping a respectful distance from Emma. "Thank you," she whispered. Over the next few hours, they talked. Olivia answered questions, showed photos she'd kept, wept as Emma described their cold nights sleeping in doorways. It was a painful start, but a necessary one. As evening fell and Olivia prepared to leave, she turned to Ethan. "Can I speak to you in private?" He nodded, leading her to the balcony. "Thank you," she said, "for everything you've done for them. For giving me this chance." "I'm not doing it for you," Ethan replied. "I'm doing it for them, and because—" He hesitated. "Because, despite everything, every child deserves to know their story, their roots. Ethan, I know it's early and we have a lot to work through, but—" She drew a breath. "I still feel something for you." "I never stopped." He searched her eyes for words. "I'm not sure what I feel, Olivia. There's gratitude for giving me 2 wonderful daughters. There's anger for the abandonment. And yes, maybe there's still a little of what we once had, but we can't force it. We need to focus on the girls first." She nodded in agreement. "I understand. They're the priority. But maybe one day—" She let the sentence hang, a possibility left open. When Olivia left, promising to return the following weekend, Ethan found Emma sitting alone on the balcony, gazing at the city lights. "You okay?" he asked, taking a seat beside her. "I think so," she said hesitantly. "It's strange seeing her after so long. Remembering how it used to be." "How do you feel?" "Confused." Emma bit her lip. "Part of me wants to hate her forever for what she did. Another part just wants my mum back." Ethan put his arm around her shoulders. "Those feelings are both valid, Emma, and you don't have to figure them out today or tomorrow." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you think we'll ever be a normal family again? All 4 of us?" It was the question Ethan had asked himself too. With so much pain and trauma behind them, could they build a future together? "I'm not sure any family is truly normal as Emma, but I do think we can build something good if we all try one step at a time." The girl nodded, seeming satisfied. "One step at a time," she repeated, looking out at the city lights. "I think I can do that." That night, while the girls slept, Ethan stayed up thinking about the remarkable events of the past few weeks. He'd gone from a solitary man focused on work to the father of two incredible daughters. And Olivia, his first love, had returned, bringing not only explanations and remorse, but also the hope of a new beginning. The future was uncertain. There would be hard days, painful conversations, tears, and, he hoped, moments of joy and healing. The road would be long, but for the first time in a while, Ethan felt hope. After all, miracles happen. Finding his daughters after 9 years, when he hadn't even known of their existence, was proof enough of that. A gentle breeze stirred the living room curtains as the afternoon sun streamed through the open windows. Emma, now freshly turned 10, sat on the rug surrounded by school books, nibbling her pencil while working on math problems. Across the coffee table, Lily was sketching in her drawing pad, lower lip caught between her teeth in deep concentration, a habit that still made Ethan smile whenever he noticed it. 6 months had passed since they reconnected with Olivia. 6 months of patient building, highs and lows, tears and laughter, wounds slowly healing. "Dad, can you help me with this problem?" Emma called, lifting her eyes from the notebook. The word Dad still sent a wave of warmth through Ethan every time he heard it. It was a title earned, not just biologically, but through the girl's deliberate choice after weeks of cautious closeness. "Of course, let me take a look," he said, sitting beside her and examining the tricky equation. In the kitchen, the sound of pots clinking and the aroma of tomato sauce meant Olivia was making dinner. She'd moved to the city 3 months earlier, renting a small apartment just a few blocks away. The girls spent most of their time at Ethan's, but slept at Olivia's on certain nights, a temporary arrangement that worked for everyone. "Got it!" Emma exclaimed proudly once Ethan finished explaining. "I told you could do it. You just needed to see the problem from a different angle." She smiled, one of those rare, treasured smiles that were now becoming far more common. The sound of the front door opening signaled Olivia's return from picking up a few forgotten ingredients for dinner. "I got the cheese you wanted," she called out, entering the living room with a grocery bag in hand. "And I grabbed that strawberry ice cream Lily loves." "Strawberry," Lily said, head popping up eagerly from her sketch. "What else would it be?" Olivia teased, ruffling Lily's hair as she walked by. Ethan watched the scene with a sense of contentment that still surprised him at times. Their path to this moment hadn't been simple. Those first few encounters with Olivia had been tense, with Emma's bitterness on full display and Ethan's unresolved anger simmering under the surface. But gradually, through infinite patience, absolute honesty, and many tearful conversations, they had all begun to heal. Olivia had proven day by day that she truly had changed. She found a job at a local advertising agency, attended therapy regularly, and, most importantly, never tried to rush the girls into immediate forgiveness. She respected Emma's pace, acknowledged Ethan's boundaries, and earned trust through consistent actions rather than words. After setting the groceries down, Olivia headed to the kitchen. Lily proudly showed Ethan a simple drawing of 4 stick figures with a house in the background. Above them, in colorful letters, she had written, "My family. Look what I made." It was a simple but moving piece of art, 4 figures holding hands with a house in the background. "It's lovely, Lily," Ethan said, studying each detail. "Who's who?" "That's you," she said, pointing at the tallest figure. "That's Mom, that's me, and that's Emma." Ethan noticed that every figure had a happy face, even Emma's. No small detail for anyone who knew how reserved Emma could be. "Can I put it on the fridge?" Lily asked, already getting up to do so. "Of course, it's the perfect spot." As Lily trotted off to the kitchen, Emma closed her math book and turned to Ethan. "When are we going to tell her?" Ethan smiled, not needing clarification. 2 weeks before, he and Olivia had asked Emma how she felt about them all living together. It had happened naturally after months of growing closeness. Emma had agreed surprisingly quickly, but they decided to wait for the right moment to share with Lily, who was prone to get excited very easily. "Tonight at dinner. Think that's a good time?" Emma nodded. "Yeah, she's in a good mood today." Dinner that night had a special air. Olivia had made lasagna, Emma's favorite, and Ethan had opened a bottle of sparkling grape juice for a celebratory toast. While they ate, conversation flowed easily, peppered with Lily's animated stories about school and Emma's quieter but equally vital comments. After dessert, Ethan shared a quick look with Olivia, who nodded. "Girls, there's something we want to discuss with you," he began. A mix of nerves and excitement fluttering inside him. Lily instantly sat up straight, eyes wide. "Is it what Emma already knows?" she asked, surprising them all. Olivia laughed softly. "Looks like there aren't many secrets in this house." "Yes, Lily, it's about that." "Are you two getting married?" Lily asked, making Olivia choke on her juice. "Not exactly," Ethan replied, amused at her directness. "At least not yet. But we're thinking of all of us moving in together, as a family." Lily's eyes lit up. "In your apartment? In Mom's? Or a new place?" "We're hoping for a new place," Olivia explained. "Bigger, with a yard, maybe even a dog." "A dog?" Lily practically jumped out of her seat. "We can get a dog." "If everyone agrees, yes," Ethan said, glancing at Emma. "What do you think?" Emma considered for a moment, as she always did before weighing in on big topics. "I think it'd be nice, but I can have my own room, right?" "Of course," Olivia assured her. "You'll each have your own space." "Then I'm okay with it." The simplicity of Emma's acceptance made Ethan smile. She had come a long way from the distrustful girl he first met, shining shoes on the sidewalk. She was still reserved, still had that sharp, discerning gaze, but there was a quiet confidence in her now, a sense of security. After dinner, once the girls were in bed, Ethan and Olivia sat on the balcony, sharing a glass of wine in companionable silence, the kind that exists only between people who truly know each other. "I never thought we'd get here," Olivia admitted, breaking the silence. "During my darkest times, I didn't even dare dream of this." Ethan took her hand, interlacing his fingers with hers. "Me neither, especially that first day when I confronted you at the store." Olivia shuddered slightly at the memory. "You had so much anger in your eyes, and I deserved it. You had so much fear. Fear that I'd never let you see the girls again." "You had every right to do that." Ethan shook his head. "Maybe legally, but not morally. They needed their mother, just as much as they needed me." Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder, gratitude evident in every line of her face. "Do you know what Emma told me yesterday?" she asked after a pause. "She said she understands why I did what I did. She doesn't fully forgive me yet, but she understands. She's incredibly mature for her age." "She had to be," Olivia said, voice faltering a bit. "She had to grow up fast." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "The important thing is that now she can be a kid again." "Both of them can." The next morning, Emma came to Ethan's room with a purposeful expression. "Dad, I need to show you something." He followed her to the girls' bedroom, where Emma opened her small treasure box, the same shoebox she'd brought when she first moved in. She took out the crescent moon necklace, handling it carefully. "I want you to give this back to Mom." Ethan looked at the necklace in surprise. "Are you sure, Emma? I know how special it is to you." She nodded resolutely. "It was hers before, and now that she's back, I think she should have it again." Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. "That's a really kind gesture, Emma. I don't want to give it to her myself," she admitted with disarming honesty. "I think it'll mean more if you do it." That night, once the girls were asleep, Ethan asked Olivia to join him on the balcony. The sky was clear, dotted with stars, and a soft breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers from a nearby garden. "I have something for you," he said, handing her the small box he'd prepared. Olivia opened it, eyes filling with tears at the sight of the crescent moon necklace. "How?" "Emma wants you to have it back." Olivia's hands trembled slightly. "But it's her treasure. It always has been. She said it was yours first, and now that you've returned," Olivia couldn't hold back her tears, "even after all I've done, it's a new beginning, Liv. For all of us." As Ethan fastened the necklace around her neck, it felt like a circle closing. The same necklace he'd given her years ago, the one she'd left with her daughters in her darkest moment, which Emma had guarded as her only keepsake, now rested again where it began, symbolizing forgiveness and renewal. "Do you know what I think when I look at this necklace?" Olivia asked, fingers grazing the crescent moon. What? That sometimes we have to be completely broken before we can rebuild ourselves stronger. Ethan kissed her gently, understanding exactly what she meant. Each of them had been broken in some way, Olivia by depression and guilt, the girls by abandonment, and Ethan by loss and loneliness. But together, they had found a way to turn the shards into something new and precious. A few weeks later, they all moved into the new house. It was spacious and bright, with a yard for the girls to play in and a small office for Ethan to work from. On their first evening there, gathered around the new dining table, Lily proposed a toast. "To our family," she exclaimed, raising her glass of juice. "To our family," everyone echoed in unison. That night, as the lights went out and the house settled into quiet, Ethan reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to that moment. A chance meeting on a street corner, a recognized necklace, old wounds torn open and finally healed. He realized true family wasn't about the blood they shared, or even the roof over their heads. It was about the ability to forgive, the courage to start over, and the determination to build something better than before. As he drifted off to sleep with Olivia by his side, and the knowledge that Emma and Lily slept safely in their rooms, Ethan felt a profound gratitude for the destiny that had, through winding and painful roads, reunited them at last. The crescent moon necklace, which Olivia now wore every day, no longer symbolized abandonment and loss. Instead, it was a constant reminder that the most important bonds, those of family, might be tested and stretched to their limits. But when they are true, they are never truly broken.